Admiral Arkell, now a respected leader in the new Concordance, worked tirelessly to bridge the cultural gaps, sharing his own personal journey of transformation. He became humanity's strongest advocate, their most fervent defender, ensuring that the lessons learned in the Sol system would never be forgotten. Humanity, for its part, integrated into the new Concordance as equals, their unique insights into physics, their chaotic creativity, and their boundless empathy becoming invaluable assets to a galaxy striving for a new, more balanced future. They became the architects of a new era, proving that the most advanced weapon was not a star-destroying supercannon, but an open hand and a trusting heart. The story ends with Admiral Petrova, now revered as a founding mother of the new Concordance, standing with Valerius and Raquel on a vast, multi-species research station built near the Sol Commonwealth Gateway. Through the shimmering portal, they could see the vibrant, diverse new galaxy that was slowly, painstakingly being built. They used to mock our primitive weapons. Valerius, Petrova said, a gentle smile on her face. They thought we were weak. Valerius, his form now radiating a serene, wise light, gazed at the gateway with profound respect. They were wrong, Admiral. You showed us that the most primitive weapon of all is ignorance, and you cured us of it. With a single impossible shot and a single impossible act of trust. You did not just shake the stars, Admiral. You changed them forever. Raquel, his once harsh mandibles now resting in a thoughtful posture, nodded slowly. They came here to teach humanity what total annihilation meant. You taught the galaxy what total reconciliation truly means. And the stars, they sing a new song now, a human song. The aliens had declared war on humanity, believing them to be primitive and easily dominated. But humanity, with its ingenuity, its indomitable will, and its profound capacity for both destruction and creation, had not only won the war but had transformed their enemies, forging a new future for the entire galaxy. They had mocked humanity's primitive weapons, but Earth had fired the one shot, the shot of pure, undeniable human spirit that had not just shaken the stars but had utterly, irrevocably changed the course of galactic history. The Tikal Empire, in its 1,000-year expansion, had never known true resistance. Their ships, massive, diamond-hard bastions of antimatter firepower, had swept aside countless civilizations, absorbing them into the Pax Tikal. They were the apex predators of the galaxy, their might unquestioned, their will absolute. And then they met humanity, a small, quarrelsome species clinging to a single blue-green world, prone to chaotic emotional outbursts and startling, unpredictable technological leaps. To the Tikal, humanity was a minor inconvenience, an amusing distraction. Overlord Theron, a colossal, multi-limbed being encased in gleaming obsidian armor, stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Imperious Will. His voice was a deep, resonant rumble that shook the very deck plating. The Sol 3 anomaly continues to defy assimilation. Their diplomatic overtures are riddled with contradictory data. Their resource claims are aggressive and unsubstantiated. Their primitive orbital defenses pose no threat. They are a pest, a particularly noisy pest. His tactical advisor, a smaller, nervous-looking Xylar named Kalex, chirped cautiously. Overlord, their technological progression is alarming. They have gone from basic FTL to localized warp drives in less than 2 centuries. Their kinetic weapons, while inefficient by our standards, are being rapidly augmented. And their population, it is expanding at an exponential rate. Theron dismissed the concerns with a dismissive wave of one of his massive limbs. Details, irrelevant. They are confined to a single system, one fleet. That is all it will take to bring them to heel. We will demonstrate the futility of resistance. We will show them what it means to defy the Tikal. The Tikal had encountered species with greater numbers, with more advanced weapons, but never one with humanity's sheer, unadulterated nerve. Humanity refused to fit into their neat classifications, refused to be intimidated by their overwhelming power. They argued, they bluffed, and most dangerously, they continued to build. Theron gave the order. A single colossal Tikal fleet, numbering 500 of their most powerful warships, translated into the Sol system. These were not mere cruisers. These were continent killers, each vessel capable of cracking a planet's crust with its antimatter lances. The fleet formed a majestic, terrifying crescent around Earth, their polished hulls reflecting the light of the sun. A silent, unshakable declaration of war. "Commence orbital bombardment preparations," Theron ordered, his voice echoing across the bridge. "Disable their orbital defenses. Prepare a localized planetary sterilization grid. Show them the true meaning of total submission. Let them know that one fleet is all it takes to crush their defiance." Down on Earth, in the Unified Earth Defense Command's central bunker, Admiral Anya Sharma watched the incoming Tikal fleet on her main display. Her face, a study in grim determination, was pale but resolute. She was a woman in her 40s, her dark hair pulled back in a severe ponytail, her eyes scanning the impossible odds before them. "Sensors confirm, Admiral," her chief tactical officer, Colonel Ben Carter, reported, his voice tight. 500 Tikal warships, each one a planetary assault platform. Our orbital defenses are completely outmatched. Sharma nodded, a bitter taste in her mouth. They came with a single fleet because they genuinely believe it's all it will take. They're not just underestimating our strength, Colonel. They're underestimating our will. They think we'll break. She turned from the screen, her gaze sweeping over the faces of her command staff, seeing fear, yes, but also a stubborn, unyielding defiance. That, she knew, was humanity's true weapon. They've measured our ships, they've cataloged our weapons, and they've found us wanting. They believe one fleet can stop us. They are about to discover how profoundly, how terribly wrong they are. "Admiral," a young comms officer interjected, his voice trembling. "We're receiving a hail from the Tikal flagship. Overlord Theron himself." Sharma took a deep breath. "Patch him through." Display on main screen. Overlord Theron's colossal, obsidian-clad form filled the view screen, his features a mask of alien arrogance. "This is Overlord Theron of the Tikal Empire," his voice boomed, rattling the speakers. "Humanity, your defiance ends now. Your primitive defenses are irrelevant. Your quaint resistance is futile. One fleet. That is all it takes to bring you to your knees. Surrender or face total annihilation." Sharma stared back at the alien overlord, a cold, unwavering resolve in her eyes. "This is Admiral Anya Sharma of the Unified Earth Defense Command," she replied, her voice calm and steady despite the impossible odds. "Overlord Theron, you have come here with one fleet to show us our place. You have measured us by your standards, and you have found us wanting. You have made a fundamental error." She paused, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching her lips. "You claim one fleet can stop us? You mock our primitive weapons? You are about to discover that humanity's greatest weapon isn't a cannon, or a shield, or a ship. It's an idea, and that idea is about to spread like wildfire. One fleet can't stop us, Overlord, because we're not just fighting you here. We're fighting you everywhere." As she spoke, a new, impossible event began to unfold on the Tikal's long-range sensors. Not from Earth, not from their orbital platforms, but from across the entire Sol system, from the desolate plains of Mars, from the swirling clouds of Jupiter, from the icy depths of the Kuiper Belt, countless energy signatures began to appear. Not just a few ships, but thousands. Tens of thousands, emerging from hidden facilities, from asteroid fortresses, from deep space shipyards that had been painstakingly constructed in secret for centuries. Humanity, in its long, contentious history with the Tikal, had known this day would come. They had poured all their resources not into building a single, visible fleet, but into a distributed, system-wide defense network. They had hollowed out asteroids, built massive shipyards under the cover of gas giant storms, and developed stealth technologies that made their hidden fortresses utterly invisible to Tikal sensors. These were not just defense ships. These were entire self-sustaining colonies, each one a fortress, each one a shipyard, each one a hive of humanity's relentless ingenuity. "Overlord Theron," Sharma's voice continued, a chilling new edge to it. "You sent one fleet to conquer a planet. You have just declared war on an entire system. You will discover to your eternal regret that when it comes to humanity, one fleet is never enough. And when we answer with fire, it will be a fire that shakes the very stars themselves." Overlord Theron stared at his tactical display, which was now a blinding storm of red and green icons. The red represented his magnificent, seemingly unstoppable fleet. The green, however, was growing with terrifying speed, appearing from every shadow, every hidden crevice of the Sol system. The numbers were not just significant, they were astronomical. It was not just a defense. It was a civilization hidden in plain sight, emerging from its long slumber, ready to unleash a fury the Takal had never conceived. He had come to swat a fly. He had just woken a dragon. And the dragon was not just awake. It was about to roar. The galaxy had laughed, but humanity was about to answer with a fire that would consume their arrogance and leave only ashes. Overlord Theron's initial reaction was disbelief, then fury. His species had never known surprise in warfare, never truly faced an unforeseen threat. Their dominion was built on cold, calculated projections, and humanity's sudden, system-wide emergence shattered every single one. Impossible! Theron roared, his voice echoing on the bridge of the imperious will. Our deep space scans indicated no such concentrations. Their technology is primitive. They cannot have built so many ships in secret. His tactical advisor, Calyx, stammered, his Xylar antennae twitching frantically. Overlord, their stealth technology, it appears to manipulate gravimetric signatures, masking their true mass. They have integrated entire shipyards into gas-giant atmospheric distortions. Their asteroid fortresses are literally indistinguishable from natural space debris. This is not primitive technology. This is highly advanced deception. Admiral Sharma's voice, calm and resolute, echoed through the Takal comms once more. Overlord Theron, you sent one fleet to teach us a lesson. We are about to teach you one. Humanity defines overwhelming force differently. We define it as everything we have, everywhere, all at once. Theron, his arrogance now laced with a bitter taste of doubt, slammed one of his massive limbs on his console. They are attempting to demoralize us. Their numbers, while unexpected, cannot match the quality of Takal vessels. Prepare for engagement. Target their largest concentrations. Focus fire. Show them the futility of their swarm. The battle that erupted was unlike anything the Takal Empire had ever experienced. It was not a grand, organized clash of fleets. It was a chaotic, system-wide melee, a furious, desperate brawl across billions of kilometers of space. The Takal, accustomed to stately broadsides and precise energy weapon barrages, found themselves facing human ships that fought with a bewildering, almost suicidal ferocity. Small, nimble human destroyers, swarming in hundreds, would engage Takal cruisers in terrifyingly close-quarters combat, their plasma torpedoes and railgun slugs tearing at the Takal's vaunted diamond-hard hulls, exploiting the tiny blind spots in their shield arrays. Larger human dreadnoughts, heavily armored and bristling with a dizzying array of projectile weapons, would draw Takal vessels into asteroid fields that humanity had expertly seeded with ghost mines, stealthy, quantum-phased explosives that would shimmer into reality only microseconds before detonation, creating devastating chain reactions. And the human pilots, their combat doctrine was utterly alien to the Takal. They fought with a reckless abandon, a furious, almost suicidal courage that defied all logical probabilities. They would pilot damaged ships directly into Takal formations, their final defiant acts taking down multiple enemy vessels in a blaze of glory. They would execute daring, unpredictable maneuvers, twisting through barrages of antimatter fire that should have vaporized them instantly. Overlord! Calyx chirped in alarm, his multifaceted eyes wide with a new, terrible understanding. Their pilots are deliberately sacrificing themselves. They are prioritizing tactical advantage over individual survival. Their casualty rate is astronomical, yet their combat effectiveness remains unbroken. They are not fearing death. They are a hive mind. Theron roared, slamming his fist on the console. Their lives are expendable. They are not individual sentient beings. No, Overlord, Calyx corrected, his voice trembling. Our psychoanalyzers are detecting individual, highly focused emotional signatures. Each human pilot is making a conscious, deliberate choice to die for their collective. They call it duty, honor, freedom. It is a form of madness we do not comprehend. The raw, burning emotion emanating from the human fleet was a tangible force, a dissonant roar against the Takal's cold, logical approach to warfare. The Takal were disciplined, but the humans were passionate, desperate, and utterly relentless. And in the crucible of battle, passion was proving to be a terrifyingly effective weapon. The Takal's advanced antimatter lances, designed for immense devastating strikes, also proved less effective than anticipated. Human ships, particularly those emerging from the gas giants, were coated in strange, iridescent ablative armor that seemed to absorb or dissipate antimatter energy, turning what should have been cataclysmic strikes into mere dazzling light shows. Their kinetic railguns, while seemingly primitive, fired super-dense slugs of exotic materials at near-light speeds, capable of punching through Takal's shields with shocking ease. The battle raged for days. Entire sectors of the Sol system were transformed into swirling nebulae of debris, superheated plasma, and the ghostly remnants of shattered ships. The Takal, for the first time in their glorious history, were taking significant losses. Not just individual ships, but entire squadrons, entire battle groups. And the humans? They were not slowing down. They were adapting, learning, evolving their tactics with every engagement. Their hidden shipyards churning out new vessels at an impossible rate. Admiral Sharma, from her mobile command center hidden within a hollowed-out asteroid, watched the ebb and flow of the battle with a grim satisfaction. "They underestimated us, Colonel," she said to Ben Carter, who was coordinating a complex series of feints and ambushes. "They thought we were just a single planet. They never understood that we had spread, not just across the system, but across the spectrum of human ingenuity. Every colony, every deep space outpost, every hidden facility, they were all building for this moment. Humanity's Project Ark, the centuries-long secret colonization and industrialization of their entire home system, was proving to be their salvation. They had spread their resources into 1,000 hidden locations, ensuring that no single attack, no matter how overwhelming, could truly annihilate them. Theron, watching his once pristine fleet suffer devastating losses, felt a cold dread begin to seep into his strategic calculations. This was not a pacification. This was not a controlled eradication. This was a meat grinder. His ships were dying, his best commanders were falling, and the humans were still coming, wave after wave, their numbers replenished by the endless, hidden shipyards of their system. He ordered a limited, tactical disengagement, a maneuver that went against every instinct of his Takal training. "We need to understand their stealth technology," he snapped. "We need to understand their tactics. We need to understand them." But as the Takal forces attempted to disengage and regroup, humanity's response was swift and merciless. Human shadow ships, barely detectable even by their own sensors, would materialize out of nowhere, ambushing retreating vessels, tearing through their weakened shields, and vanishing back into the void before the Takal could react. It was a terrifying display of hit-and-run warfare, perfected in the shadows of their long, secret preparation. Overlord Theron knew, with chilling certainty, that this was not just a war for survival for humanity. It was a war for definition. And the Takal Empire, in its arrogance, had stumbled into a fight with a species that was about to redefine what it meant to be an enemy. The conflict had risen to a terrifying crescendo, and humanity, far from being stopped by one fleet, was now poised to teach the Takal the true, horrifying meaning of an unstoppable, unyielding fire that threatened to consume their very empire. The galaxy had laughed at humanity, but humanity was now answering with a fury that would silence them all. Overlord Theron's once unshakable confidence was shattered. His fleet, designed to conquer star systems, was instead being systematically dismantled by a species he had dismissed as primitive. The Takal, masters of galactic warfare, were being taught a brutal lesson in humility, not just by superior firepower, but by an utterly alien and unpredictable combat doctrine. "They are not just fighting us." "Overlord," Calyx reported, his voice filled with a tremor of fear. "They are learning from us. Our tactical patterns, our weapon signatures, they are adapting faster than we can analyze. Their combat AI is integrating new data almost instantaneously. They are evolving in real time." Theron stared at his tactical display, which showed the relentless, adaptive assault of the human fleet. He had come here to impose order, to teach a lesson in submission. He was instead receiving a brutal education in chaos. "They are a disease," he growled, but the words lacked their former conviction. An uncontrolled, rapidly mutating disease. On Earth, Admiral Sharma watched the Takal's disarray with a grim, exhausted satisfaction. The human fleet, though inflicting heavy damage, was also taking heavy losses. Their sheer numbers and innovative tactics had turned the tide, but they couldn't sustain this indefinitely. They needed a decisive blow, a final, undeniable statement that would shatter the Takal's will to fight and reverberate across the entire galaxy. "They're still trying to categorize us, Colonel," she said to Ben Carter. "They're still trying to put us into their neat little boxes. It's time to show them that humanity doesn't fit in any box. It's time to show them our ultimate weapon." Project Prometheus was humanity's most audacious, most desperate secret, a plan so dangerous it had been debated for centuries, held in reserve as a last resort against total annihilation. It wasn't a weapon of destruction in the conventional sense, but a weapon of transformation. Deep within the sun, Sol 1, humanity had spent decades constructing an unimaginable device. It wasn't a cannon or a shield generator. It was a stellar resonance amplifier, designed to tap directly into the star's core, not to convert its energy into a beam, but to use the immense gravitational and energetic forces of the sun to project a controlled, localized space-time distortion. Its target, the very fabric of the Takal Empire's perception. "Dr. Tanaka," Sharma commanded, her voice firm. "Initiate Project Prometheus. Prepare for full system-wide activation. Target the Takal Fleet's core command frequencies." Tanaka's face was pale. "Admiral, the calculations are still theoretical. The risk of destabilizing the sun itself, of creating a localized singularity that could consume our entire system, it is immense. We are playing with forces we barely comprehend." "We comprehend what we must, Kenji," Sharma stated, her eyes fixed on the distant sun. "The Takal came here believing they understood the universe. We are about to show them that the universe is far stranger, far more terrifying, and far more beautiful than they could ever imagine. We are going to make them see." As Project Prometheus began its activation sequence, drawing unimaginable power from the heart of the sun, a new, impossible phenomenon erupted across the Sol system. The sun itself flared, not with a solar flare, but with a sudden, controlled burst of highly structured, multidimensional energy. It was a wave, not of light or heat, but of pure, coherent space-time manipulation, a focused ripple sent out into the void. On the unyielding logic, Overlord Theron and his crew watched in stunned horror. Their sensors went wild, not with energy readings, but with what their Xylosian science officer described as a localized, multidimensional event horizon expanding from Sol 1. It was a wave of pure, concentrated space-time distortion aimed directly at their fleet. "Overlord!" Calyx shrieked, his antennae twitching violently. "The human sun! It is. It is projecting. Not energy, but a manipulated reality." And then the wave hit. It wasn't a physical impact. It was a profound, soul-shattering experience that transcended all known senses. Every sentient being in the Takal fleet, from Overlord Theron down to the lowest crew member, was suddenly, involuntarily, connected to a single shared, overwhelming vision. They saw it. They saw their empire, the Pax Takal, not as a glorious dominion, but as a vast, sterile machine, its order built on suppression, its peace achieved through fear. They saw the countless species they had conquered, stripped of their cultures, their identities, their very will. They felt the crushing weight of their own arrogance, their millennia of unquestioned supremacy, their casual destruction of entire worlds. And then, the vision shifted. They saw humanity, not as primitives, not as a virus, but as a vibrant, chaotic, endlessly creative force. They saw their brutal, beautiful history, their capacity for both terrible destruction and profound creation. They saw the fierce love, the desperate hope, the unyielding defiance that had fueled their resistance. They saw the countless lives sacrificed, the ingenuity honed in desperation, the sheer irrational refusal to surrender. And then the true horror and revelation of Project Prometheus became clear. The projected space-time distortion, amplified by the sun, began to reveal the true nature of reality. They saw the quantum foam, the underlying fabric of the universe, not as a sterile void, but as a canvas of infinite possibility. They saw how humanity, in its desperation, had learned to subtly edit that canvas, to twist local gravity, to phase ships out of existence, to amplify consciousness, to break the rules that the Tikal had always believed were absolute. They saw that humanity's primitive weapons weren't primitive at all. They were merely the crudest manifestations of a species that was learning to manipulate the very architecture of reality itself. They saw that the Tikal, for all their advanced technology, were playing with sticks and stones, while humanity was learning to sculpt the universe with its bare hands. Overlord Theron was shattered. His multi-limbed body trembled uncontrollably. He saw his empire, his entire species, as a grand, magnificent illusion built on a fundamental misunderstanding of the cosmos. He saw humanity, not as a pest, but as a terrifying, beautiful, and utterly unstoppable force of cosmic evolution. "No!" Theron cried out, a sound of pure, unadulterated terror and awe. "They are not just fighting us. They are showing us. The universe. They are gods." The Tikal fleet, already demoralized and disoriented, was utterly broken by Project Prometheus. Their will to fight evaporated, not because they were defeated by superior weapons, but because they were defeated by a superior, terrifying understanding. They had come to conquer a species. They had encountered the living embodiment of cosmic discovery. On Earth, Admiral Sharma watched as the Tikal fleet began to withdraw, not in an orderly retreat, but in a panicked, desperate flight. They were fleeing not from bombs or lasers, but from the unbearable truth of humanity's existence. "They finally understand," Sharma whispered, tears streaming down her face, tears of sorrow for the unimaginable cost, and tears of fierce, unyielding pride. "They finally understand what one fleet can't stop. It can't stop an idea. It can't stop humanity." The climax of the war was not a final, devastating battle, but a single, silent broadcast of altered reality. Projected from the heart of the sun, the Tikal had mocked humanity's primitive weapons. But Earth had just fired the one shot that had not just shaken the stars, but had profoundly, irrevocably shattered the very perception of reality for an entire galactic empire. And in the silent aftermath, the galaxy would never be the same. The laughter was gone, replaced by a profound, echoing silence, filled only with the unsettling truth of what humanity truly was. The retreat of the Tikal fleet was a stampede, an uncontrolled flight from a truth they could not comprehend. Overlord Theron, his mind reeling from the cosmic vision imparted by Project Prometheus, issued the full-scale retreat order, his voice a raw, guttural sound of utter defeat and terror. His fleet scattered, abandoning all pretense of order. Their once unbreakable resolve utterly shattered. "They did not just destroy our ships." "Overlord," Kalix stammered, his Xylar antennae drooping in despair. "They destroyed our certainty. They showed us that everything we believed about the universe was incomplete. Our empire, our technology, our very understanding, it is all built on sand." Admiral Sharma watched them go, a profound weariness settling over her, but also a fierce, unyielding pride. "The cost was immense, Kenji," she said to Dr. Tanaka, who was overseeing the careful, slow shutdown of Project Prometheus. "Millions of lives, the sheer mental and emotional toll on our own people. We pushed ourselves to the very brink of what it means to be human." "But we pushed them over the edge, Admiral," Tanaka replied, his voice hoarse with awe. "They came with a single fleet to enslave us. We showed them that even 1,000 fleets couldn't stop us, because we fought not with weapons, but with the very fabric of reality itself. We fought with an idea. The Tikal Empire, upon receiving the frantic, fragmented reports from Theron's shattered fleet and the lingering echoes of Project Prometheus's broadcast, was thrown into unprecedented chaos. The ruling conclave, once a bastion of cold, logical decision-making, was plunged into a maelstrom of fear, recrimination, and bitter arguments. The very foundations of their empire, built on unquestioned technological supremacy and a rigid, deterministic view of the universe, were crumbling under the weight of this new, terrifying understanding of humanity. Overlord Theron, returned to the core worlds, was a broken, humbled figure. He stood before the conclave, not with pride, but with the raw, unfamiliar emotion of profound awe and fear. "We underestimated them," Valerius rasped, his voice a shadow of its former resonance. "We judged them by their tools, not by their minds. We believed their understanding of reality was primitive. We were wrong. Their understanding, their ingenuity, it is their greatest weapon. They are not merely a species. They are the universe's ultimate discoverers. They are the ones who truly understand." His words, once dismissed as the ravings of a traumatized survivor, now resonated with the terrifying understanding that every member of the conclave had received from Project Prometheus. They had felt humanity's chaotic brilliance. They had seen its terrifying reality-bending potential, and they were terrified. The resolution for the Tikal Empire was a brutal, self-imposed restructuring. The old order, built on technological domination and a rigid, limited view of the cosmos, was shattered. New leaders, those capable of integrating new, unpredictable concepts into their understanding, began to emerge. They were forced to confront the very chaos they had tried to suppress, to acknowledge that the universe was far more mysterious and flexible than they had ever imagined. Admiral Sharma, now revered as a living legend across the entire Sol system, watched these developments from Earth, her heart heavy with the cost, but also filled with a quiet pride. "They're learning, Kenji," she observed. "Slowly, painfully, but they're learning that their empire was built on a very small corner of reality." "They have no choice, Admiral," Tanaka replied. "You gave them a lesson they can never forget. You burned it into their very perception of existence. But the war was not over for humanity. Not entirely. The Tikal had retreated, but their empire still spanned the galaxy. Humanity was still isolated, alone in their system, having proven their might, but not yet their right to belong to a galactic community based on something other than fear. There was still a bridge to be built, a peace to be forged, not through overwhelming force, but through mutual respect and a shared quest for understanding. The climax builds not just in military terms, but in existential ones. The Tikal had been defeated, but they were still enemies. Humanity had shattered their perception of reality, but they had not yet won their hearts. And Admiral Sharma knew that the final, decisive act of this war would not be a weapon, but an act of profound, almost suicidal openness. She gathered her remaining command staff. "They understand our capacity for breaking their reality," she began, her voice steady. "They understand our capacity for unleashing fire. Now it is time to show them what else humanity is capable of. It is time to show them our capacity for sharing." Project Genesis was humanity's ultimate final secret, a plan so daring it bordered on madness. It was a plan to extend an olive branch, not from a position of weakness, but from the zenith of their terrifying, reality-bending power. "We are going to broadcast it, Kenji," Sharma stated. "The entire archive, all of our research, all of our insights into space-time manipulation, quantum entanglement, and resonant consciousness. Our understanding of the rules we just broke. We are going to share it with the Tikal, with the entire galaxy. An open-source download of our entire scientific legacy." Tanaka stared at her in stunned silence. "Admiral, that's insane. That's giving them the keys to everything we fought for. It's an invitation for them to replicate our technologies, to turn our own discoveries against us." "It is a gamble, Kenji," Sharma agreed, her eyes fixed on the distant fleeing Tikal ships. "But it is a gamble on the best of humanity. We have shown them our ability to annihilate their reality. Now we must show them our ability to expand it. We will offer them knowledge, even after they tried to subjugate us. We will show them that our quest for understanding is not a threat, but a gift. That our chaos is not a contagion, but a source of endless discovery." The decision sent shockwaves through humanity. Many feared it, seeing it as a foolish act of self-sacrifice. Others embraced it, seeing it as the ultimate expression of human courage and confidence. The preparation for the galactic-wide scientific broadcast began, a colossal project that drew on every ounce of human ingenuity and cooperation. It was a monument to their defiance and their profound, unshakable belief in the power of shared knowledge. Meanwhile, the Tikal, still reeling, observed the human activity with a mixture of fear and growing, hesitant curiosity. They saw the preparations for the broadcast, not as a weapon, but as something utterly incomprehensible. Why would a species that had just proven its ability to manipulate reality now seek to give away its most precious secrets? The final act of this war was not going to be fought with fire and fury, but with a profound, terrifying, and utterly human act of intellectual generosity. And the fate of two civilizations, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance of that single, open transmission. The moment Project Genesis began its broadcast, a profound stillness fell over the galaxy. It wasn't the silence of fear, but the hushed reverence that comes with the unveiling of a universe-shattering truth. Humanity, instead of unleashing more fire, instead of building more weapons, chose to share. They broadcasted their entire scientific and philosophical understanding, every insight into space-time, quantum mechanics, and the nature of consciousness, directly to every sentient species in the Tikal Empire and beyond. Admiral Sharma, her face a mask of profound exhaustion and unwavering resolve, watched as the massive data stream flowed out from the Sol system, an invisible river of knowledge that promised to redefine galactic civilization. "It's done, Admiral," Dr. Tanaka reported, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "The entire archive has been transmitted. Every secret, every discovery. And now we wait," Sharma replied, her gaze fixed on the distant, swirling nebulas where the Tikal Empire lay. She had gambled everything on this, not just humanity's future, but their very soul. Would the Tikal, still reeling from the existential shock of Project Prometheus, see this as an act of peace or a foolish, arrogant display of vulnerability? The Tikal Empire, upon receiving the Project Genesis broadcast, was plunged into a new, even more profound level of chaos. The sheer volume and revolutionary nature of the human data threatened to shatter their entire scientific and philosophical framework. Valerius, the humbled High Protector, argued passionately for acceptance, for studying this unprecedented gift. Vorlag, the once unflappable admiral, now a shadow of his former self, still advocated caution. But even he could not deny the immense value of the knowledge humanity had so freely given. Finally, after weeks of agonizing internal debate, the fractured Tikal Empire decided on an unprecedented act. They would send an envoy, not a single ship, but a delegation of their finest scientists, philosophers, and diplomats aboard an unarmed vessel with a single, profound request to learn. The moment the Tikal diplomatic vessel, the Seeker of Truth, emerged from hyperspace in the Sol system, a collective gasp went through the human command center. It was a sleek, elegant ship, its unarmed status a powerful statement in itself. Admiral Sharma, accompanied by Dr. Tanaka and a small contingent of human officials, met the envoy at a newly constructed joint research station, built specifically for this first delicate encounter. As the Tikal representatives disembarked, their alien forms were hesitant, their expressions unreadable, but their posture was one of profound humility. High Protector Valerius, his form now radiating a humble, curious light, was the first to speak, his voice a low, resonant rumble. "Admiral Sharma," he began, his gaze meeting hers, "we came here to conquer you. We believed our knowledge was absolute, our technology supreme. You shattered that belief. You showed us the true power of the universe, and you then, incomprehensibly, shared your understanding with us. Why, Admiral? Why did you give us such a gift after we sought only your destruction?" Sharma looked at the gathered aliens, at the former enemies who now stood before her with a newfound awe. "Because, High Protector," she replied, her voice steady and clear, "we are humanity. We are chaos and we are fire, yes. But we are also driven by an insatiable curiosity, a burning desire to understand the universe. And we believe that true understanding, true progress, can only be achieved when knowledge is shared, when minds are open, and when discovery is a collective endeavor. You showed us your arrogance. We chose to show you our trust and our hunger for knowledge. Her words resonated deeply with the Tikal representatives. They had experienced humanity's wrath, their terrifying capacity to break reality. Now they were experiencing humanity's profound, almost illogical capacity for intellectual generosity and collaboration. It was a revelation that completed the lesson humanity had begun with Project Prometheus and solidified with Project Genesis. The emotional resolution for the Tikal Empire was a slow, agonizing, but ultimately transformative process. The old empire dissolved, replaced by a new, more scientifically advanced and philosophically open galactic nexus, one that embraced discovery, celebrated new ideas, and sought understanding rather than domination. The human story, once a footnote, became a central pillar of their new philosophy, a reminder that true power came not from hoarding knowledge, but from sharing it, and that the universe was far more wondrous than any single species could ever comprehend alone. Admiral Racal, now a revered elder statesman of the new Nexus, dedicated his life to fostering scientific and philosophical exchange between the Tikal and humanity. He became humanity's strongest advocate, their most fervent student, ensuring that the lessons learned in the Sol system would never be forgotten. Humanity, for its part, integrated into the new Nexus as equals, their unique insights into physics, their chaotic creativity, and their boundless curiosity becoming invaluable assets to a galaxy striving for a new, enlightened future. They became the architects of a new era of galactic discovery, proving that the most advanced weapon was not a star-destroying supercannon, but an open mind and a shared quest for truth. The story ends with Admiral Anya Sharma, now a respected elder of a unified humanity and a revered figure across the new galactic nexus, standing with Valerius and Racal on a vast, multi-species research outpost built on the edge of a newly discovered nebula. The stars shimmered around them, full of endless, inviting mysteries. "They used to laugh at us, Valerius," Sharma said, a gentle smile on her face. "They thought one fleet could stop us. They thought our weapons were primitive." Valerius, his form now radiating a profound, thoughtful light, gazed at the distant, swirling colors of the nebula. "They were wrong, Admiral. You showed us that true power lies not in the size of your fleet, but in the breadth of your understanding. You showed us that the most primitive weapon of all is ignorance, and you cured us of it. With a single impossible shot and a single impossible act of trust and generosity. You did not just shake the stars, Admiral. You expanded the very universe itself." Racal, his once harsh mandibles now resting in a posture of deep contemplation, nodded slowly. "They came here to conquer humanity with fire. You answered with knowledge. And the galaxy? The galaxy learned a new song now, a song of endless discovery, led by the species they once laughed at. Humanity, the fire that not only consumes but illuminates.